Good afternoon, good morning, and good day. It is 2 o'clock, and we will officially start the meeting for the Safe and Healthy Schools Commission on this October the 14th. And can we please get a roll call?
Darren Balaam. Charlene Bybee will be absent today. Ashley Daftery. Elizabeth Flores.
Present.
Jessica Goicochea.
Present.
Leanne Larson will be absent today. Arisha Mujahideen.
Here.
Okay, perfect. Jorge Montano Figueroa. Sarah Porter. Natalie Sanchez.
Here.
Paige Samples. Chris Smith.
Here.
Missy Von Allen.
Present.
And Annie Zucker.
Present.
Perfect. You have roll call.
Great, and we have quorum. Thank you all for being here today. We're going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance, and Misty Von Allen is going to lead us in that. Thank you, Commissioner Allen. And now let's move on to the first item, 2.01. We are very excited today to welcome 4 new members. I'd like to start with Ashley Dafferty, and if you could just say just something real quick and just introduce yourself to the commission.
Yeah, hi, my name's Ashley Daftery, and I'm an associate professor at University of Nevada, Reno in the School of Social Work. I've been now here, I think this is my 9th year, and I'm really glad to be here. I have experience practicing as a social worker and also working in schools as well, so I'm glad I can be here with you all.
Great, thank you, welcome. Jorge Montano?
Okay, I got that going. Okay, so I'm Jorge Montano. I am a pediatric injury prevention specialist for Renowned Children's Hospital. I also serve as a Save Kids Washoe County coordinator. My previous experience is as a pediatric ICU nurse, and I'm very grateful to have this opportunity. So thank you.
And our very important student representative, Arisha Mudin.
Hi, my name is Arisha. I am a senior at Galena High School. I'm super excited to be here and bring the first-hand experience to this meeting.
Thank you. Very important. And also online, we have Christopher Smith.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am an emergency management professional. I have been in the career path now for roughly 20 years. I started off, though, as a teacher and a principal in Washoe County before moving into public safety and then working at the local level as the school district's first emergency manager. And then I worked at the state as the state of Nevada's emergency manager and Homeland Security to the governor, security advisor to the governor, and then ultimately moved to Washington, D.C., where I worked as a senior executive for FEMA for a number of years, to where now I'm back home in Reno, and working as an emergency management consultant. Nice to be on the board, or the commission.
We're happy to have you. I see the map of Florida in the background, so you must be busy these days. Yeah. Thank you for being here. And Sylvia, I just wanted to note that Sarah Porter joined.
Yeah, it has been noted. Thank you.
Okay, great. So if we can move on to item 2.02, this is for discussion and possible action. This is to select a chair for the Safe and Healthy Schools Commission for the 24 to 25 school year among the following commissioners: Misty Von Allen, Darren Balaam, Charlene Bybee, Ashley Dafferty, Jorge Montano, Elizabeth Flores, Rhonda Lawrence, Leanne McCulley, Arisha Mudin, Jessica Gocochea, Sarah Porter, Paige Samples, Natalie Sanchez, Christopher Smith, and Annie Zucker. And this is for possible action. Oh, and is there any public comment on this, Sylvia?
No public comment.
Thank you.
This is Misty Allen. I would like to nominate Natalie Sanchez. You have done a beautiful job as vice chair, and I can't think we'd be in any better hands anywhere else.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. With that, let's have a vote.
Wait, we just need to make sure, do you accept the?
Oh, yes. Thank you. Yes, I accept the nomination. Thank you, guys. And I promise to do my very best. I love this commission and really think it's important. So thank you all for having me and trusting me with this. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstained? All right, the motion passes. And moving on to item 2.03, to select a vice chair from, I don't have to read them all again, do I? Excellent. From the commissioners present. Any of the commissioners. We're looking for a nomination for vice chair. Or even a discussion if somebody has an interest or a desire.
I see Sarah's hand is up.
My hand's just up because I think I'm roll call. So I just wanted to add my name to the roll call. I apologize for being a little bit late.
I think we got it.
We got it. Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you.
Was that a hand of curiosity for any vice chairship, Sarah? No.
No, thank you.
Not vice chair curious. Okay, great.
Would we be able to get a little more understanding of time commitment and what some of the responsibilities are?
Yeah, so historically, we have met every month. I think on our agenda today, we're going to talk a little bit about how our schedule has changed a bit. Usually the vice chair just really helps support the chair. So if I'm out of town or something happens that you chair a meeting, kind of be that other person to come with if we are going to present something to the board, things of that nature. So it's not, I would say it's not overly time consuming. It's a pretty reasonable, ask. Yeah.
Okay. Misty Allen for the record. I would like to nominate Annie Zucker, who I think has a really nice finger on the pulse of our community as the, I just lost the words for your collective. Please fix that for me.
Youth Mental Health Collective Impact.
Thank you. Very complex, but I'd like to nominate Annie Zucker.
Is there a second?
I second.
Is there any public comment on this action
No.
item?
No public comment.
Great. If we can take a vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 And oh, Annie, you're okay. You're accepting this nomination?
I'll accept.
Okay. I was a reluctant accept, but it's an acceptance for the record. Any opposed? Okay, great. Then the motion passes. Congratulations, Annie. Yay. Okay. So now on to item 2.04, the approval of the minutes from our June 3rd, 2024 meeting. That seems like so long ago, the Safe and Healthy Schools Commission. This is for possible action, and I'm looking for a motion to approve those minutes.
Liz Flores for the record. I move to approve the minutes of June 3rd, 2024.
Thank you, Commissioner Flores. Is there a second?
This is Misty Allen. I'll second.
Any public comment?
No public comment.
Great. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstained? Great. Now we are moving on to item 2. Motion passes. Now we're moving on to item 2.05 for presentation and discussion of open meeting law requirements. This is what I'm constantly need help with for members serving on the Safe and Healthy Schools Commission, including communication between members outside of formal meetings. This is for presentation and discussion only.
All right. Hi, everybody. Sarah Montalvo. I'm the Deputy Chief General Counsel for the Washoe County School District, and I am your attorney assigned to the Safe and Healthy Schools Commission meetings. I just usually assist the chair in compliance with open meeting law, and you'll hear me kind of say things. You've already seen it today. We're going to make sure we get public comment. And the presentation I'm doing is going to be very brief. It's not going to be a whole rundown of open meeting law because that could take a long time. And Paul specifically asked that we kind of focus on the communications between the members because that's generally the area that can be a little sticky. So it's going to be quick. And if you have any questions, feel free to interrupt me during any of the slides if you want some clarification on things. So we'll go to the first slide. And if we can, there we go. Spirit of open meeting law, why are we here? Why do we do this, right? The whole point of this, and there's a huge statutory scheme on open meeting law, the entire purpose is to make sure that you guys conduct your meetings with the public being able to present and an opportunity to participate in the meetings. So anything that's within your realm of what your function is as a committee here needs to be noticed, agendized, right? So the public knows what you guys are discussing in case they want to come and make public comment and participate to maybe add some input to affect your vote, right? So it needs to be agendized and then also allow the public to come speak before you take any action items. So that's kind of the whole underlying purpose of this is to have our public be able to participate in what you're doing as a public body here. So with that in mind, and we always have to keep that in mind because it can be very onerous, the open meeting law, we try to at least harken back as to why we are doing this. So next slide. What is a meeting? That's important, right? Because not everything that you do is considered a meeting and therefore not subject to the open meeting law. Only meetings are subject to the open meeting law. It's a quorum of members. A quorum here, you guys have 14 members, right? So therefore a quorum is going to be eight, yeah. So it's a simple majority. And so 8 of you constitute a quorum if you were all together, although we'll talk about serial communications as well. And it only constitutes a meeting if there's a quorum plus deliberation or a quorum plus action. So if you're not deliberating and you're not taking action, even if you guys are all together, that does not constitute a meeting subject to open meeting law. So that'll be important when we kind of go into what constitutes deliberation in the next couple of slides. And we'll go. What is not a meeting? So therefore, social functions. I get a lot of questions about this from our public bodies. They think that they can't go to like a fundraiser together, right? And then, if there's a quorum of us, then we're violating open meeting law because we're all in the same room. That is not a quorum or a meeting unless you guys are deliberating or trying to take polls from one another at that social function. So as long as you are not deliberating together or saying, what are you going to do on this action item, then that is not considered a meeting. Therefore, you're not violating open meeting law just by being in the same room together at another social function. So that's a common misconception, and it's okay to do that as long as you're not deliberating or taking action. Also, you can talk about things that are outside of the jurisdiction of the Safe and Healthy Schools Committee, right? So just because you guys are together and talking about maybe topical things about, about the hurricanes and everything like that, you guys obviously are not going to be, dealing with, hurricane protection here probably in Reno, Nevada, so I don't think so anyway. So it has to be within your supervision, control, jurisdiction, or advisory power as a committee. You guys are the Safe and Healthy Schools Committee. You're really tasked with the safety and mental health kind of supports for advising the board and sometimes our staff members to help our school district children, right? So anything that's not related to that, you guys can feel free to talk about it and even have 8 or 9 people within the committee talk about it, and you're still okay. It's not a meeting because it's not within your jurisdiction. Next slide. This is where we get into trouble. Obviously, quorum's simple majority of the total body, which is 8 at least, but you can have quorums through what's called walking quorums, constructive quorums, or serial communications. even if you don't have them all together. And what that means is a little bit complicated, but generally how we see it is if, say you're at a social function and there's only 4 of you there, and you guys all talk about, hey, you know, what do we have on our agenda today? Oh, the mental health professional development. What do you think? Like, what would be really good mental health PD for district staff? Oh, I think XYZ would be great, don't you? Yes, I agree. You're deliberating already, but you don't have a quorum. Then one of you goes to 3 other members and you guys start talking about the same thing. So don't you think that'd be a great idea? Oh yeah, that would be a great idea. And then you go and get one more in there and you've got a quorum. Those are serial communications that you have now encompassed a quorum of your body, because you have essentially done walking quorums, right? So you have 3 here, and then 3 there. All of you have deliberated on the same topic, therefore you've done a walking quorum, and it's outside of a meeting where the public body can hear what your thoughts are, hear what your deliberations are, and why you want to do these things. And you've not only deliberated, but it sounds like almost in that scenario, you kind of taken action because you've already said what your vote's going to be. So those are what we really need to be careful of. And that's also when we're also talking about emails where we get in trouble too. I'll get to the last slide too, but doing like a reply all type of thing with all of our members on, and it's just very easy for people to start jumping in, right? That's why generally, I'm pretty sure, Paul, you blind copy all of the committee members. That is why you were blind copied, because we don't want to reply all where then you start talking about things that are supposed to be within the agenda topic, because then that is outside of the meeting and everyone on that email got to hear what your thoughts were, and you're within a quorum of the committee. So that's why every time we send emails, you are blind copying. So please, if you guys send out emails to each other, do not send out emails where everyone is on the actual recipient lines. Do blind copies of everybody. It's a good practice because we don't want to establish these constructive quorums or serial communications. Does anyone have questions about that? Okay. And then next slide. Okay, so deliberate, what does that exactly mean? It's examining, weighing, reflecting upon the reasons for or against action, over which, again, you have to have supervision, authority, and control over that topic. So just because you're deliberating on something like the weather that, you know, that doesn't have anything to do with what your jurisdiction is, so that's not considered a deliberation of something related to the Safe and Healthy Schools Committee. But interestingly, that little bullet point there, it could include facts that are preliminary to the ultimate decision. So here, like mental health, right, professional development, if you start kind of saying, you know, I went to this one seminar about mental health and they had some really good topics. And some of these topics included XYZ. Those would be preliminary facts to what the ultimate decision would be. So that would be a deliberation. Even if it's just kind of preliminary facts, you're not kind of doing an exchange, you're giving out ideas, and the statutes effectively say that constitutes deliberation. So just be cognizant of that when you guys are discussing things outside of the meeting here today. And then next slide. So what to avoid? Obviously, please avoid walking quorum, serial communications, polling. That is like, hey, how do you think you want to vote on this, right? And then the minute you start kind of polling, that is when we get into the territory of serial communications, because you start effectively gathering up, hey, we know half of the board's is gonna pick Natalie for chair, but you know, I really want to be chair, so maybe I'm going to start to try to make my case for the other half so I could be chair, right? Don't do polling. Because that is probably going to be considered an open meeting law violation. Obviously, sharing thoughts and opinions on matters within the jurisdiction of the committee, again, has to be within the jurisdiction of this committee. And then that reply all as well, because that can constitute a meeting. One thing that's, it's a little bit off topic, but what we always recommend, since you are now on a public body, We always recommend, you can always create this through a Gmail account, just an email address related to Safe and Healthy Schools Committee. You can say something like Natalie, shsc@gmail.com, right? Create your own little Gmail account and then give that to Paul for the communications, because that way, if we ever get a public records request about what are communications between the Safe and Healthy Schools Committee, it's just on that email address, and in case we need to make sure we covered everything, or there's discovery into it, we're not going into your personal Gmail account. I don't want to do it. Like, our paralegal doesn't want to go into your personal Gmail account. I don't think you guys want us to be going into your personal Gmail accounts. We tell our board members to do the same things. They get assigned their own, obviously, district email addresses. So therefore, we don't have to go into their personal email accounts in case we get discovery requests on public communication. So that way too, all you know which ones are relevant to the Safe and Healthy Schools Committee. And so if Paul says, hey, we got a public records request, please send me all emails that you have sent to your committee members or from your Safe and Healthy Schools, related to the agenda topics. All you have to do is look in through your Safe and Healthy Schools, email address, and then forward that on to Paul. It makes it a lot easier too. You guys probably won't have a huge issue with that, but you just never know, because anyone can make a public records request, and so it happens. But that's something I think that can help too. And then also your personal email is not subject, and open to the public as well, because you don't want people then emailing you on your personal email address too. So any questions on any of this? Kind of a lot in a short amount of time. Online, did you guys hear everything?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, perfect. That would have been a bummer if you didn't hear any of that. I would hope someone would have spoken up, because I'm not doing it again. All right, and if there are no questions,
I
that's
think
all I
there's
got.
some questions.
Oh, we got one.
Oh,
Go ahead.
Annie.
online or me? Oh, I just have a question about process for emailing, requesting, to be how we get on an agenda or anything like that. Is that communication through Dr. Lamarca?
So we have a board policy on setting agendas, and the chair, in collaboration with Paul, because he's our staff liaison, will set the agenda. Okay. Certainly, you guys can make recommendations to Natalie as your chair of what you might want to see, or even recommendations to Paul. But ultimately, the ultimate decision is between Natalie and Paul of what to put on the agenda. But you can make recommendations to either one of them. Okay. Yeah.
And then Sarah, I had a question about coming together if we had smaller committees working on something, because we kind of talked about this a little bit last year, like if we wanted certain things within maybe a safety forum, that we had one committee working on this, one committee working on another item. Is that doable or not, given the...
It is not recommended, because they tend to, one, you have to create that. I'm not sure you guys have authority to start creating subcommittees of yourself. But two, it really starts to blend into that serial kind of communications, because you're doing little subgroups to then report back. And generally, we like that probably opens you guys up to a public body. And therefore, then we need to set up meetings for the subcommittees. And if there's little subcommittees, that can be pretty onerous on staff's time.
Okay, so that's a no. Great. Yes. Any other questions online or in person? Yeah, Misty.
Yeah, thank you, Chair Sanchez. Dr. LaRocca, I believe we did have emails set up. It's been 10 years, but I haven't used it in a very long time. But I thought we did that for this purpose. Am I the only one? Charlene would be the only other one.
That's on you.
You've been part of the commission longer than I have, so I don't remember those. If you just send them to us, we can get it set up again, but we don't issue them to you. Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions? No? Okay. All right. Thank you, Sarah. Yep. All right, moving on to item 2.06. This is for discussion and possible action to provide recommendations to district staff regarding the use of electronic devices in Washoe County School Districts and Washoe County School District Administrative Regulation 5810 related to student use of personal electronic devices, including but not limited to smartphones and smartwatches. Hi.
Good afternoon, newly appointed Chair Sanchez.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Members of the committee, thank you for your time today. For the record, Tiffany McMaster, Deputy Superintendent. I'm here to provide you a little bit of an update and engage you as key stakeholders in a discussion around work that's being done with personal electronic devices in our district. So to begin, I'll just kind of take you back to where we started. As a district, we had a Board of Trustees meeting on August 13th, which is the second day of school this school year, where we presented an update on where our school district is with personal electronic devices. I use that term, really it's focused mainly on cell phones, but when we say personal electronic devices, it kind of broadens that to other things such as smartwatches and earbuds and things like that. So the topics discussed at the Board of Trustees meeting on August 13th was, first of all, we just reviewed national research regarding smartphone technology and adolescents' mental health behavior. We obviously highlighted that there are student learning, social, emotional, and mental health impacts that are occurring across the nation with students as a result of the misuse of personal electronic devices, which is causing concern across the nation. We also reviewed some local data tying cell phone use in our schools to behavior infractions. We reviewed current district regulations. Some people were surprised to find out that we actually do have a regulation in place. It has been in place for quite some time, since 2015, that restricts the use of personal electronic devices in our schools. We did notice that in that current regulation that there were a couple of holes missing. It was actually very forward-thinking for the time in which it was developed, which was 2015, but it didn't account for a few other topics like special circumstances for students who may be on a 504 or have an individualized education plan. It didn't really call out any specifics for some safety concerns during emergency situations. These are kinds of things that we've just learned over the years that weren't reflected, but for the most part, like I said, it was pretty forward-thinking regulation at the time. We highlighted some efforts that have been happening in several of our schools. One in particular was Reno High School. We had a couple of students, parent booster, the former principal from the school talk about the effort that they went into last year. And they engaged a whole group of stakeholders, and they kind of did a relaunch at the semester of their cell phone policy, and did what they called a We Are Present challenge, R for Reno High School, and kind of made it a big campaign really focused on making that collective commitment to this challenge each and every day, and really adopted the philosophy of we're going to do this with you, not to you. I'm sure you could probably see across the nation there's a lot of media around cell phone bans and a lot of people doing things to other people. And their focus was really on how can we do this with you? We know that there's some negative impacts related to cell phone use. So how can we just rethink about what we're doing, help educate students, engage our parents, and engage our stakeholders in a healthier way. Following that board of presentations on August 13th, the board requested that we launch an ambitious plan, which includes a pilot program that will begin second semester. So we've been engaged in a lot of work, but following this presentation to the Board of Trustees, we first established, you got it. All right, 6 key goals. So we knew first and foremost that if we were going to do this with people and not to them, that we needed to engage our stakeholders and get some input from them. We also knew that we would have to revise and update our current administrative regulation and start making a plan for that pilot program implementation. Goal 3, we knew there would have to be some type of communication plan involved in this. Goal 4, starting at second semester, we were going to have to launch this program for the 2025 school year. Then the board requested that we come back in the spring and again at the end of the year with updates. So we knew there would have to be some type of system for monitoring and supporting it at the district level. And then lastly, we're going to have a system for revisiting, revising, and reflecting on the plan. So those were the 6 goals that established, and I'll give you a quick update of where we're at. So goal number 1, stakeholder input. We had a student by the name of Melise from Reno High School that presented at the board meeting in August. And this quote that's up on the screen was actually a quote that was taken by This Is Reno and published in their paper, so she became famous for it. But it was actually a pretty profound quote that really stuck with me and several district leaders. She said, we need some way to rebuild the culture of education to engage students to have a desire to get off their phones and learn. And we just thought that was so interesting. Rebuilding a culture was super powerful. And getting students to have a desire to get off their phones, that was another very powerful part of her statement. And then she ended it with learning, and really that is where the emphasis is. Why are cell phones an issue in our schools? It's because it's interfering with the learning environment when students are more engaged in what's going on their cell phones than what's happening in their classrooms. So I put that quote up there to share with you that was kind of the inspiration for our plan that we have developed and continue to work on. I was planning on coming to you September 9th, but fire got in the way of that. So I'm happy to be here today to give you this presentation and engage in some discussion with you and get ideas. We also wanted to make sure we were engaging students. And the easiest way to engage our students is we have an annual climate survey that goes out to students in the fall. So it'll be launching, I think it's beginning of November. However, a little glitch in that, the climate survey closes in December. We have to validate the data, so we get the data back in January, which would be after the pilot implementation. So still great information. We're going to collect data from all students in Washoe County School District through that survey, but it's really going to be with the purpose of that being our baseline data. We did want to somehow get some student input prior to the implementation. So we went to the District Student Advisory Council and presented to them and had them engage in some discussion, and they gave us some ideas and some feedback, which was great. We also asked each one of those school representatives to then take that information back to their own school. So every school had the opportunity to fill out some survey data of a small sampling of student leaders throughout our district in advance of that district-wide student climate survey. For parents, the climate survey doesn't go out until May, which is going to be after, like towards the end of our pilot implementation. So again, that will be great information for us kind of at the tail end of our pilot program. However, we wanted some information from them in advance. So we did launch a survey that we issued through Connect Ed, and we just put it on our website and asked people to participate. Just to give you a little bit of perspective, when we send out parent climate surveys annually, we get about 4,700 or so responses every year. When we sent out the Connect Ed for this survey, within 36 hours, we already had 5,500 responses. This is a hot topic that people have a very strong opinion about. So the survey is actually still open right now, and we're still collecting that data, but people have a lot to say, and so we're really looking forward to getting that data, and we have a large amount of data from that survey, so that's great news. We also wanted to get teacher input. There is a teacher or staff climate survey that opens at the same time as the student climate survey, so we'll be getting those results in January. Again, a little bit late in advance of the pilot program, but will be great baseline data. So what we did is we reached out to our teachers union, WEA, and asked them to disseminate a small sampling survey to a few staff members. So we've got several hundred survey data results from that sample group that will inform just the pilot implementation. There is representation from every school in our entire school district in that sampling, so that gives us some good baseline data to inform our next steps. And then also association input beyond WEA. We're engaging through our superintendent monthly meetings with all of our associations to just let them know that this is a topic and see if they have any further ideas for our implementation. So that's a highlight of our stakeholder input and engagement thus far. And again, looking forward to our discussion at the end here to see what you have to add to that. Our second goal was to work on revising and updating the administrative regulation. Like I mentioned, special circumstances. For example, some students on a 504 have to test their blood sugar on a regular basis, and their phones are set up to have little alerts if their blood sugar gets low, and if they don't have access to their cell phone, it could be a health impact for them. I think most schools have kind of accommodated for that and taken those kinds of things into consideration. But if we're going to have a regulation, it really should account for those special circumstances. So that's an update that we recognize needed to be made to the regulation. Further, there was no accounting for emergency procedures, how those should be handled. So that's another area of focus. And again, we just really wanted to make sure in the process of doing those revisions that we keep the focus on learning and keep bringing it back to that. We also wanted to talk about launching our pilot program. So the first thing we wanted to do was come up with a title. We have run this by our Student Advisory Council. We originally, and in this documentation, you'll see the terms Tech Away and Learn Today. That's actually been revised now since this was made. It's Phone Away and Learn Today, so pretty similar. The reason we switched from tech to phone is, again, some of those special circumstances. We have a lot of students who benefit from the services of an individualized education plan who utilize assistive technology to access their instruction. And we felt like, there are some students who say, put your tech away. They'll think, oh, I can't use my devices anymore. So we didn't want to have any of those barriers. So we are going to morph into the Phone Away and Learn Today campaign. So the objective of the campaign is in an effort to address the mental health, student learning, and social emotional impacts of the misuse of technology on students. WCSD will partner with our stakeholders and launch a Phone Away and Learn Today campaign and launch a pilot implementation of the revised admin regulation 5810 during semester 2 of this school year. Moving on to Goal 3, that's where we thought we needed to really think about our communication plan. One of the benefits of our audience, our key stakeholders in this audience being adolescents, is the power of advertising on adolescents is pretty profound. When you think about marketing and companies who advertise, they're not advertising to people my age. They're advertising to adolescents, hoping that they can sell them on something that they are going to be stuck to for a lifetime. Can they brand something with an impressionable youth that they'll remember forever? And we thought that that was something that we could use to our advantage, helping students at a really impressionable age realize that not all technology is good technology, and they need to be responsible consumers of technology and learn to use it appropriately. I know as adults, we did not grow up in an environment where cell phones were used in schools, so it's really difficult for us as the adults to come up with those boundaries, and we really wanted to do better for kids and help them at an impressionable age learn. And we think that repeated messaging and campaigning around self-regulation and responsible use is going to be very, very powerful. So part of the communication plan, which was developed with students on the Student Advisory Council, was to start by defining what putting your phone away and learning today means. And then part of the communication implementation plan is to develop daily messages that will be read in schools in their morning announcements, where students are making a pledge to put their phone away and learn today, where teachers are using it in classrooms when they're about to start an engaging lesson and say, remember students, this is a phone away and learn today activity. This is really important. So let's put your phone away. When they hear those words, phone away and learn today, they're going to start connecting phone use and learning. And that when I do make that commitment to put the phone away, that's when that powerful learning will happen. Another key component of our communication plan is right now we have launched a PSA campaign. So students in Washoe County School District received information via ConnectEd and through some of their teachers that they can submit either a poster or a 30-second video talking about why it's important to put your phone away and learn today. So we thought that wouldn't it be powerful for students to teach other students in their own words in really meaningful ways to make this commitment to doing better for themselves. So that those are being worked on right now and will be turned in probably, I think, November sometime, and we hope to have those ready at the launch of the campaign. But the idea is that we are going to just flood everybody with this messaging a little bit before the pilot program begins, so people start understanding the why it's important, not from somebody old like me, but from, you know, their peers, and seeing the power and the excitement and the enthusiasm. We hope to get some great posters that can be then you know, put into our schools as a visual reminder, something that's made by other students, so that students are doing exactly what Melise said in that quote. They're helping to change the culture. It's not us, the adults, that are changing the culture. It's students making that commitment on a regular basis. We also want to engage with our family school partnerships so that we can talk to parents about how to promote healthy technology use, not just at school, but at home as well. This is something that parents have to navigate. I mean, I know as a parent, my kids are both out of school now, but they were in high school during COVID, and you know, their only form of connection with a peer was through their phone. And I didn't establish great boundaries as a parent. I didn't know what to do. I thought, well, you know, I want them to have some type of connection. And it was just uncharted territory. So if we can empower parents with more information about what is a healthy boundary, what isn't a healthy boundary, does my child have a right to privacy? Which the answer is probably not, but that's a whole other story. But you know, where is that line? What should I do and what shouldn't I do? And I will tell you, listening to students, they really do want boundaries. They do want somebody to say, hey, we're going to put our phone away in the classroom. That is not an appropriate place to use their phone. But when they're surrounded by peers that all have their phones out, the power of peer pressure is so significant. We are going to have connect-ed messages that will go out to families prior to the implementation. Again, just really reinforcing the why this is important and why we're making this campaign an emphasis. So we're not doing it just to people. We're getting them to have conversations with their students at home. Like, hey, I heard that the school district is going to be launching this campaign. What do you think about that? So that they can really engage in some rich dialogue. We have developed several social and emotional lessons that will be taught in schools prior to implementation so that students understand the why. We'll be extending those lessons into the beginning of the launch and throughout the launch to really over time develop those self-management and self-regulation skills throughout the semester. I already mentioned that we'll be doing the daily reminders, and then as far as supporting schools, we'll be providing our secondary schools with some storage containers to store devices in during class time to help support this campaign. We did have a final bullet on there. This is sort of a yet to be determined, but where our hope is that we get so much interest in this PSA contest and so many great advertisements and public service announcements and posters that we want to send them out into the community and maybe engage some of our community partners in some financial assistance for spreading that word and getting that messaging out. Moving on to goal 4. We will be launching this pilot program starting in January the 7th when we return from fall break. Prior to that, our administrators and our counselors will be receiving materials and trainings as a kind of the soft launch with all of the social emotional lessons and everything that they need. We'll be engaging principals in dialogue with other principals about building systems and structures. We began that work actually before the start of the school year. Where they were learning from others, but now we've got a whole bank of best practices so that we can make sure every school gives their stakeholders the opportunity to have a little bit of voice in this and in terms of the implementation. We have some professional development that will be going out to teachers. January 6th, that's the Teacher Professional Development Day, so that all teachers in the school district receive the same messaging and feel that support of it's not just me as a teacher implementing something. We're making a collective commitment as a district. We're going to take this phone away and learn today commitment and I know that it's not just me, one single teacher in a classroom trying to tackle a huge community and nationwide problem. It's all of us collectively working together. Goal number 5. We've been working with our accountability department to come up with a system for collecting data and monitoring this throughout the second semester so that we can continually reflect and revise. When we looked at Reno High School and their example, they said that they had a great start to their campaign, and by about midway through the semester, a lot of bad habits started to surface again, a lot of momentum had been lost, and they needed to kind of do a restart. So monitoring it and looking at data and seeing how the implementation is going to be great, so that we as a system can better support schools in what are those touch points for more system-wide supports that need to be deployed to our schools. Those lessons will continue. That'll help with the shift of mindset and self-regulation for the campaign. Again, we're going to keep the focus on reclaiming their power over learning and putting that ownership on students. This is not an action that we as adults are going to take. It is an action they are taking as students, because that's the action that's going to result in them being a responsible citizen and a responsible consumer of technology. I think that's it for goal 5. And then goal 6, again, we will continue to review our data throughout the semester. We're going to be looking at behavior referrals, mental health referrals, climate survey feedback, and then other anecdotal feedback during the implementation. We're going to seek some more input on that revision of the admin regulation, and then based on the reviews and the recommendations, we will either revise our plan or say this is working just fine for us, and we'll keep moving forward. So that is, in a nutshell, a summary of the work that's been done so far, and I'm so happy to be here to have all of you engage in a discussion around this, and if there's anything that we've missed in this plan, we'd sure love to hear from you. But again, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Deputy Superintendent McMasters. That was great. Are there any questions from this commission? Yes, please go ahead, Anisha.
I just wanted to bring something to your attention. As a student myself, me and my friends have been talking a lot about different schools and their policies regarding the phones. And in my school, in multiple classrooms, we have to put our phones in the little phone case that hangs on the wall, and they do call us out, teachers, if our phone is not up there, because they can see all of our numbers and everything, and whose phone is not up in their designated spot. But the only concern about that we had was that students aren't feeling as safe without their phones with them. I agree that putting phones away is really important to education, but I feel like it would be more impactful if students were required to put the phone away close to them, and were required to zip it up in their bag or something, rather than have their phone locked up in a box or put them in the front of the classroom, just because it's a sense of security, because there's a lot of news about school shootings and code reds and stuff like that. So it is a matter of concern for us students.
Can I just ask you, from a student's perspective, when an adult is asking a student to put their phone away, I think there's always kind of a concern with sort of a power struggle, and a student not doing it, or an adult wanting to take a phone away and a child not wanting to give it to them. Talk to me a little bit about that. I mean, how have you as a student seen that happen, either to yourself or other people, where it's done in a way that seems to be respectful and is kind of powerful, and people comply, versus a method that may be used that isn't so productive?
So lately, or since the new policy began, us having to put our phones away, I think it's been really productive, because teachers are oh, we just give you a number, you guys put it in the right place, and we just take attendance based on whose phone is there. And so people, our students, actually feel they're responsible to go put their phone in the right spot, so that they get marked for attendance, or their citizenship. And people at my school actually care about their citizenship grade. So our teachers are like, oh, if your phone is not up here, we'll take away your these many points off citizenship or something. And then I know other teachers, they give times when students know they can use their phone. So if there's the curriculum is covered, students know that when the teacher allows you, then you can go grab your phone. You'll have 5 minutes at the end of class to use it, do whatever you want. Obviously school appropriate. But yeah, there's some prizes, or if there's if you need to use your phone during projects, they'll allow you, because I feel like that's their relationship between the student and the teacher, to know the students can know that your teacher is not there to enforce this policy on you. They actually do care about how you feel and everything, and you will get benefits from now to time to time if you follow the rules.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate the feedback and for being brave enough to speak up.
Thank you.
Other questions, discussion?
I think in your example, thank you for bringing it up and eloquently explaining that. It sounds like attendance is taken based on the phones that are on the wall per se. What about students that maybe don't have a cell phone? Have you seen that situation, and have you seen any of those students maybe feel isolated or embarrassed to the fact that for whatever reason they don't have a phone?
So I used to be one of those students in middle school till I got a phone. But teachers do say that they're taking attendance based on what's on the wall. But they do actually look around the classroom, and if a person does not have a phone, they ask that person separately, hey, do you have a phone or not? And if they say no, then I think the policy is that they talk to the person's parents just to confirm that they don't have a phone. Or if I forgot my phone at school, I would tell the teacher hey, I forgot my phone at home, I didn't bring it today. And they would just double check with their parents, or sometimes they just trust us and go on. But
Thank you for that. And I ask that in the consideration of what we're proposing, that we do have some safe place for those individuals, especially because we start considering barriers such as financial. There is going to be students who don't have cell phones, and it's yet another reason that they become identified as different or can be bullied or picked on because of that. So I think just considering that as part of this initiative would be very helpful.
Great, thank you.
And I believe that we have this this is an action item, so we can, as a commission, as we're done, if there's recommendations that we have, that we can put that into a formal action item too. Commissioner Flores?
Thank you. For clarification, the climate survey that's forthcoming, are the questions related to technology similar to the most recent survey that went out?
Yes, so the survey that just went out has the exact questions that will be in the larger survey. So the parent climate survey, I think it's 5 questions or something like that. They're the exact questions that they'll get in May, which will be great because they'll be able to see and compare the data. And yes, they're very similar to the ones that the staff and the students will get.
Any other questions?
I would just like to hear a little bit more about the data that you're collecting, because listening to how it's done in your school, I imagine it's done differently in other schools. And as I was reading the document, it seems like maybe even in every classroom, it could be done differently. So there is that opportunity to capture data of what's working, what's not. And I was just wondering how you've thought through that. And I love the fact that you're collecting the data, planning on reevaluating, and know that you'll be making tweaks to this as well.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things that we are hearing in the data is people want something done. They think that teachers have just been left out there to come up with their own policies, and it's not really fair to do to teachers. So by having kind of a district initiative and sort of a baseline that everyone follows. However, I think most schools are saying that they want an opportunity to have some little tweaks, especially outside of class time. I think there's a general consensus that around at class time, if we could consistently sort of address that in a very similar way district-wide, But outside of class time, there's a lot of parents that have different opinions on that. Really varies quite a bit from one school to another. You know, some schools are very much neighborhood schools. Other schools, students are riding a bus for 20, 30 minutes, and parents are very anxious about their child not having access to the phones. And, you know, I think all of us have come to, this is a day and age when we communicate so much via phone. Like, you know, are you taking the bus home today, or are you going home with a friend? Or can you make sure you feed the dogs when you get home? Or, you know, I'm gonna have to work late. I mean, we communicate through a phone so much. So for the most part, everybody is saying, no matter what, they want to be able to check in with their child at some point in time, and they're not in favor of a full-on ban and no, you can't use it. They do want to be able to have some form of communication, and they have no problem with there being clear guidelines and boundaries in which that can occur.
Thank you. And I think that's where I was thinking the data might be really beneficial for those schools where it's just you cannot use your phone in the classroom, but maybe you can in free time. And then if some classrooms allow you to use the cell phone, what's working, what's not? Are there more struggles as you're collecting data? Are there increased referrals? Because I think that's the one thing that kind of felt a little painful. I would hate for it to get to the point where there was a power struggle and there was a referral, and to increase that where maybe there might be other deterrents. Even I noticed having guardians pick up the cell phone once it was taken away.
Right. Thank you.
Other questions? Comments? Anything online? Nada? Okay, this is great because I had some questions and most of them have gotten answered so far. So in terms of what it looks like, would there be a uniform sense of a consequence as far as like every student knows that they'll have a couple points taken off their citizenship, or what that looks like?
So the current admin regulation spells that out pretty articulately, and we do have things in our discipline manual that already account for that. So they're in there, but there's also the ability to have some minor little tweaks at a site level to that. So there is a universal baseline that would be applicable for all schools.
Great. I'm just thinking about a lot of kids that I see for therapy that would have a really hard time with some of these regulations. And I would hate to have their day start off with already being in the negative, so to speak. And then,
Absolutely.
you know, it's hard on everybody for the rest of the day.
Right. And I will tell you, it was interesting as we were looking at the data, even to try to get good baseline data, because so much of what happens with technology use that's a violation isn't necessarily coded as such. You know, if a student has their phone out during class when they shouldn't have it out, but yet the teacher tells them to put it away and they say no, and then they get in a power struggle and the kid screams and runs out of the room and throws something, it's not going to get coded as a technology violation. It's going to be, you know, disruption into the classroom or some other type of coding. So it does get very difficult to try to track that sort of a data. But again, I think if we're focusing more on the let's make a commitment to learn and let's put distractions away and you need to learn to regulate yourself. I think it's going to create a calming environment for everyone involved and reduce it, whether it's directly or indirectly related to technology violations.
Great. Yeah, thank you. And then I'm curious, in terms of the community partnership stuff, have you reached out to community partners and asked about providing maybe like raffle prizes or different things that are incentivizing in those ways? Because teenagers definitely respond very well to, as a classroom, we won this, like we did this, we did great, and just really building up that positive reinforcement piece.
We've had some, I would say, informal conversations at this point with some community partners. I really think once we have the PSA contest done and we're starting to launch it and get it out there and people are kind of getting excited, we might have some more leverage there. I know a lot of schools do some individual things with their partners in education that they have at their site level. So as of yet, we don't have any district-wide commitments for financial support, but I think that there's a lot of people really leaning into this topic, and I think especially, you know, when we think about workforce development, a lot of employers really want to have employees who are responsible users of technology. They don't want to have employees who are sitting on their phone the entire day when they should be working. So this is a community issue, and so I think there's a high level of community engagement. And I think that once we start getting to the point where we're advertising and marketing and getting everybody excited, that we'll get a little bit more interest in that.
Great, thank you. And now, as a commission, is there anything in terms of a possible action? Oh, and I need to call for public comment. Is there public comment on this item?
No public comment on this item.
Okay, thank you. Is there any action? Anything formally to recommend? Okay. Seeing none, thank you so much for being here today and telling us all about that. That was super interesting. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
And with that, we will move on to item 2.07, discussion and possible action to provide recommendations to district staff regarding youth mental health first aid professional learning. I think you can, and this is from Commissioner Zucker.
Great. Thanks, everybody. I will make this brief, and I appreciate everybody for allowing me to kind of talk about the work that's being done right now around youth mental health professional development, and specifically athletic coaching, especially in the youth side of things right now, as far as coordinated youth sports organizations, but trying to lead up into the sports school organization. So I just want to talk briefly about the youth mental health crisis in athletes. I know that many of you guys have seen the Olympics and watched a lot of what went on at that level, but also going down already to the youth level and youth mental health and athletes. So I'm going to give a little bit of data and then talk about what the community is doing around this, and then talk about how maybe we can get involved as a school district. But 30% of female athletes and 25% of male athletes report experiencing anxiety, eating disorders, or depression during their competitive seasons. This was presented in an NCAA study in 2022. Suicidal ideations are twice as likely in student athletes compared to non-athletes during times of academic and athletic stress. Burnout and pressure to perform are cited for the reasons for 70% of youth athletes quitting organized sports by age 13. And I want to point out that I think that having the school district's effort to put sports in middle schools for sixth graders was one of the greatest things that the school district could have done, was to support that, because middle school sports are kind of the last option before there's cutting from teams and things like that, or the quitting at age 13, which 70% of youth athletes do. So getting those kids engaged at that age is really important. Specific mental health challenges, maybe why these challenges occur, would be performance pressure, obviously the overwhelming pressure to perform, leading to stress and anxiety, injuries and recovery. So those who do have injuries have isolation, depression, and loss of identity as an athlete. Eating disorders, obviously sports that emphasize weights like wrestling and gymnastics and running have higher incidence of disordered eating and body image issues. And then transitioning out of sports. So again, those kids that have either decided that they didn't, that they decided because of the pressure that they were leaving sports before the age of 13, or those who do not make a team, kind of lose a sense of identity. So 1/3 of those athletes report depression post leaving the sports. So really, there's an opportunity here. Many of our teachers see a kid for 50 minutes on average a day, where some of these coaches are seeing these kids 2 to 4 hours a day, and they see them outside of the classroom, they see them outside of that learning environment, they see them in their social environments a little bit more. And really have an opportunity to be a mentor. We talk all the time in the school district about the one trusted adult, and how that having those trusted adults in school can lead back to all of the great things that kids have access to by being as a part of a school environment. And when they have that adult, their mental wellness improves. So giving the tools to those coaches who have that profound impact on a child can really significantly identify the signs of emotional distress early, and they can prevent crisis if they have that relationship with a student and they have the tools in their toolbox. That 2019 NCAA survey found that athletes who felt supported by their coaches were twice as likely to seek help for mental health challenges. Research from the National Federation of State High School Association shows that athletes with trusted mentors have 20% higher academic performance and 40% lower dropout rates for sports, and a 50% reduction of risky behaviors such as substance use. So there is a really great program right now with community sports organizations that was actually led by Renown Health called Project Stay. Project Stay was an initiative birthed out of the loss of one of our students, a 12-year-old student in the school district, whose parents said he was a three-sport athlete, and I wish that he had been able to go to his coaches, or I wish that they would have been able to recognize the signs in him. So they started something called Project Stay, and really it was the identification that the State Office of Suicide Prevention already has these training opportunities for adults, and those who want to, again, put the tools in their toolbox. And there was a way to incentivize through Renown at that time that when they were asked for sponsorships from sports organizations or child-facing organizations, for sponsorships, they said, and we'll sweeten this with a carrot of a donation to your organization if you put all of those coaches through this training. In the first year of Project Stay, we trained over 300 youth sports coaches. So this was not within the district, but organized sports outside of and in Washoe County. So really, athletic teams that are trained through Project Stay report an increased awareness and reduced stigma around mental health. And athletes are more likely to discuss mental health concerns with their coach or teammate, knowing that their coaches have been through that training. So it was also an education to the parents on the team and a sense of pride that their coaches had that skill set and those quote unquote tools in their toolbox. So again, I just want to point out that there's free and accessible training opportunities in Washoe County already. So the State Office of Suicide Prevention, and Misty is here, but they offer, and I'm not going to read off all of the different offerings, but they offer several trainings at different, 4 different audiences, different time durations that are required for the completion of them, and how they're taught. But really, there's a training for everybody. If there is somebody that just wants to be briefly given the tools to be able to get a kid or anybody to the next level, they have that, or they can become trained more in depth through the ASSIST program. But I like to liken this to CPR. CPR was created so that we could save a life if we needed to get them the help that they needed. And this is very similar to CPR. If the people that are on the front line have the tools to be able to get a child or anybody else to that next level, there's the opportunity to save a life. So I won't talk us through all the different trainings that are offered for free from the State Office of Suicide Prevention. And I know that they will create anything in any program to anybody that is willing and able to train staff, or coaches or anybody. So I just want to also point out that within that there is upcoming grant and funding opportunities. So Renown Health will continue and actually bolster Project Stay in the upcoming years, which again is providing stipends to attend the free training. And then Misty should be very proud of her team for just securing the Garrett Lee Smith Youth Suicide Prevention Grant, which was $100,000 annually for 5 years to support mental health initiatives such as Project Stay. This is in Churchill County, Elko, and Carson's school districts, but Washoe can replicate a very successful model if it's something that we wanted to do within our community. Also, the Garrett Lee Smith, or the Transformation Transfer Initiative grant is being applied for by the State Office of Suicide Prevention, which would support Washoe County, which is $250,000 annually. So if this is awarded, the grant would cover training for 50 sports teams across Northern Nevada, including Washoe County. And there's other opportunities to the presentation earlier for philanthropic partners to come in and really support this. This is an easy one. We have a lot of child-facing or not-for-profits that support child-facing programs, and organizations, and they kind of hold that carrot, right? If this is something that the community truly believes in, they can say that this is something that is important to them and that they would like to participate in a program like Project Stay. So potential next steps, I really just believe that these are out there and they're really accessible things for Washoe County and for our coaches. And I think that people are ripe to want that professional development right now. And so if we can figure out a way to work with the professional development department to endorse and promote these already existing training programs across all athletic departments, I would like to be able to see if we can increase those numbers of participants and coaches that are participating from Washoe County School District, understanding that many are volunteers, many are unpaid, many have restrictions on their time. But when it comes to being a coach, I think that there are reasons why people become a coach, and it's to influence the lives of kids. And if this is something that is timely, they would be willing to take that time to be trained to be the best coach that they can possibly be. So that's really all that I have to say on the topic, and we have discussion. I don't know.
Thank you, Vice Chair Zucker. I see some of you have put your video on online, so I'm wondering if you have any questions or comments.
I'm Jessica Gogatia for the record. Thank you so much, Vice Chair Zucker. As many of you know, I am a parent of an athlete, and he's 11 and recently in middle school. And so, as you said, bringing sports to 6th grade, I am thrilled. It has made a very big impact. I think for my son, he also plays travel sports and a lot of supports in Nevada, and I also was well, let's see, I'll decide all the words I'm going to say. My son's father is also a coach and has been coaching for about 20 years in our district. And I think that if there was opportunity for our coaches who are coaching our youth, especially at a middle and high school level, to have training about emotional first aid and signs of, early signs of noticing differences of mental health, I think that it would be incredibly impactful. And if there's any way, whether it's this commission or Annie, me personally, can help figure out a way to drive this forward, I would be 100% in support. I think it's so incredibly important. And I think that our coaches oftentimes are not given as many opportunities for these kinds of things because sometimes they're not district employees, sometimes they are volunteers. And even those who are district employees, oftentimes, depending on what their positions are in the district, they might not have the same opportunities or the same continuing education that some of, the other teachers and administrators have. And so I love this. I am having a hard time. So hopefully there's, more research, because I'm having a hard time finding information on Project Stay specifically. But I do know that you mentioned, obviously there's a lot of other offerings, but I would fully support however, we can as a commission support the, the conversation further.
Thank you, Commissioner Gokachia. Any other comments? Oh,
Chair,
yes, Commissioner Smith, yeah.
Yeah, this is Chris Smith for the record. What you just said, Jessica, made me feel, as I started to count the years ago when I started coaching in the school district. Now it's been 35 years since I started coaching in the school district, and this is an incredible opportunity for our coaches and our athletic departments across the school district. I can tell you for firsthand as a coach and an AD that we haven't had this kind of, I think, life-saving opportunity and training for our coaches. When you equate that to mandatory CPR training, this is along the same lines as that, and I really appreciate that. So I think the school district has an opportunity in helping to spread this throughout each of the high schools and middle schools, to our coaches that are currently certified or classified staff, as well as those off-campus coaches that may still be paid, but they're not members of the faculty or staff at the school, to engage them in this kind of training as well. So I would ask that maybe as the next possible action that we bring in the student activities coordinator, or have discussions with that individual to begin what we can do here in the school district, and maybe also connect with the Nevada Interscholastic Athletics Association, Athletics and Activities Association, the NIAA, because they're the voice and the body for the entire interscholastic activities and athletics across the state. But we certainly can start locally and move our way towards statewide. And Rollins Stallworth, I imagine, is the person at the school district we can speak to first.
Thank you, Commissioner Smith. Dr. LaMarca, I'm wondering if you might come up for a minute as we kind of have this discussion before we move into any sort of, there is a possible action item on this agenda, but as we discuss this, just maybe give us some guidance on what, as a commission, our purview really is, and what things we can perhaps suggest and what things we really can't.
Thank you. For the record, Paul LaMarca, Chief Student and Family Supports Officer, and I may ask Sarah to speak as well. The way, so professional learning, and this really is kind of encapsulated within professional learning for staff and for volunteers, that's really in the purview of the superintendent. The Safe and Healthy Schools Committee typically provides its recommendations to the Board of Trustees, but in this particular instance, if you choose to act, and we could talk about that, we would suggest that recommendation be forwarded to the superintendent, who could then talk with the board based on his decision, if he wants to pursue that. So that's just a bit of a clarification. I very much appreciate what Vice Chair Zucker is presenting. I do think it's critically important, and we would love it if every coach and every teacher and every bus driver and every nutrition worker had this type of training available to them, and they do. So I do think that as long as it remains voluntary, and it would be great if there are incentives for it, absolutely, it's something that you should pursue. I would hesitate for you to recommend that it be mandated. We are talking about 40% or so of our coaches are volunteers. They are already committing a lot of time. They already do have several required trainings, some annual, some at intervals that aren't annual, but it is asking a lot. And I do also agree with Ms. Zucker that if this was available, we're going to see a lot of people take advantage of it, especially if there is some sort of an incentive. So in short, if you do act, I would recommend that your action be to provide input to the superintendent as opposed to the Board of Trustees in this particular case. And if there's any other question, I'm happy to try to answer that.
Commissioner Allen.
Thank you, Chair Sanchez, and thank you, Vice Chair Zucker, for bringing this up and your kind words and your origination of this project. You are the one who started this with the family. I just wanted to clarify a few things. Absolutely, this is incentivized, not meant to be mandatory, because we know the complexities, especially with district coaches and volunteers. So that's why it's been initially with associations. The grant we were awarded, the Garrett Lee Smith Youth Suicide Prevention Grant, is $735,000 per year for 5 years. So it's a comprehensive suicide prevention component, and this is one piece that we feel is missing. Rodeo associations out in our rural communities and farming and extracurriculars. So that's where we're focusing. But because it's a federal Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration grant, we cannot incentivize anything. So this TTI grant can be a huge opportunity statewide. So it's really an exciting position, and I do think it's going to be effective. I wanted to add one piece. We do now have Prevención de Suicidio. We did our first training last Friday with some great success, so we can offer it in Spanish, the 2-hour training. So it's not overwhelming, and we can also provide virtual trainings. So there's so much flexibility, weekends, evenings. My team is there to get it done with whatever the association or the team needs. Thank you.
That's great, thank you. Sarah, if we were going to do maybe a possible action item around this, would it be something in the flavor of endorsing, that as a commission we endorse this?
It'd just be recommendations of whatever training you would recommend to the superintendent.
Could we be non-specific in the training and just say we?
You could say in the areas of XYZ, or the trainings offered through certain programs.
Okay.
And again, because we cannot direct staff as a committee, so it would just have to be recommendations.
Got it.
Yeah, and you can keep it broad on that. So, but remember, you also have to get public comments.
Yep, public comment. just getting some logistics in order. Is there any more discussion around this?
For the record, this is Jorge Montano. I think we're really being innovative, especially in the realm of athletics. I think as a collegiate athlete myself, and having gone through the Washoe County Athletic Department myself, we're living in a different age when it comes to athletics. As we talk about high school students now making decisions, financial decisions for their families as they go into college with NIL deals and things of the sort. These statistics that you shared with us are unfortunately going to put more of a stress on those kids. So I think this is something very, very important that I think we'd be very innovative with. And as you discussed, I think athletics allows us to have this initiation of these trainings, optional as it would be very important. But I think this would be very, very beneficial for our community, for our athletes, and I think for the coaches, because I think there's nothing worse than being put in that situation and not having those tools in your toolbox to act accordingly. So yeah, I think this is very, very important, and I would again figure out how we can structure this recommendation to have parents or athletes and coaches specifically be able to participate, because I think this is going to be a thing that comes and it only grows, unfortunately.
Commissioner Flores, did you have some discussion? No. Okay. Is there any public comment on this item, Sylvia?
No public comment.
Okay. Well, it sounds like this is exciting for us as a commission, so I'm curious if anyone wants to make a motion on this.
So
I move that. Oh,
nope, take it.
Go ahead, Commissioner
Sure.
Gocochea. Yeah.
I move that the Safe and Healthy School Commission move forward with a recommendation to the superintendent on mental health training for coaches and volunteers in our athletic departments in Washoe County School District.
Are there specific subject matters related to that as part of your recommendation?
Does there need to be?
Well, it's pretty broad as drafted, so I think it would be helpful to hear what specific areas the commission is recommending as part of the action item.
In regard to youth mental health and awareness around.
I think we got from what Annie was presenting, a lot about suicide and suicide prevention. So perhaps
I was trying really hard to not put us in a very specific like tunnel that it's, because emotional first aid is more than just suicide. And if we have an opportunity to do something when we're doing a recommendation, because as we talked about, like, I mean, I guess all of it can, I mean, I can say suicide prevention if that's what we need to do, and anything can fit under that as well. I was trying to be broad a little bit purposefully so that we can talk about when we're making a recommendation to the superintendent, it doesn't put us in a very tiny box. But if we feel like that's the words that need to be used, I'm fully comfortable, because I think we can make anything suicide prevention in the world of mental health.
Commissioner
so
Allen.
thoughts on that?
So she has a pending motion, so we want to just, for Robert's Rules of Order here, try to comply. You have kind of not a definite motion yet. You kind of just said just general mental health, but then you kind of changed it to mental health first aid, which I think is a different. So could you kind of specify, maybe let's just start over. Like, let's start your motion over again.
I move that the Safe and Healthy School Commission makes a recommendation to the superintendent regarding youth mental health and emotional first aid to include suicide prevention for our coaches and volunteers in Washoe County athletics.
Okay, I think we like it.
So if you, you could ask for a quick, well, first we need a second, and then we can ask for a little friendly amendment.
Is there a second?
This is Misty Allen. I'll make a second with a friendly amendment.
Excellent. And what might that friendly amendment be?
I'm thinking some adding with the recommendation to the superintendent to promote and support Project Stay, which encompasses youth mental health first aid, and suicide prevention opportunities.
And Jessica, do you accept that friendly amendment?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Thanks,
Great.
Misty.
So we're voting on the friendly amendment.
No,
No,
everything.
Everything,
With
everything,
the-
including the
with the
friendly,
friendly amendment.
With the friendly amendment, I'm not doing it. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstained? Excelente. It passes. Yay. Thank you, guys. Okay, and then we have a very exciting 2.08, discussion and possible action to determine content, logistics, and marketing for the 2024 Washoe County School District Annual Safety Forum. Just a quick reminder for those of us here last year and for those of us that are new, just to know that we did not have a safety forum last year because we were trying to figure out what did that look like, what were the logistics for it, how could we really encourage more folks to come and have more consistent participation. So that was something that we kind of tabled, and here we are again with it. And Dr. Lamarca perhaps can help us a little bit with this topic.
Thank you, Chair Sanchez. Again, for the record, Paul Lamarca. Chad Hartley is the representative from communications, but I don't see him behind me, so that's why I came up. And Michelle Anderson, the chief over communications, and I did have some correspondence. And just to kind of get us moving, she is recommending that you move away from an online forum. It is incredibly cumbersome to put that together, and especially given the number of participants that we've had in the last several years, it's really hard on staff. What she recommends, if you still want a kind of online portion of a safety forum, is to consider maybe 2 or 3 very short videos that could be promoted, could be disseminated, and they would live for a longer period of time. We could have them linked at the Safe and Healthy Schools webpage so people could consume them at whatever point in time. She does still recommend that we could have a safety forum at a location. If you remember 2 years ago, we actually did pretty good, I thought, with the online forums, and we had one at breakfast, one at lunch, and then in the evening we were at Trainer Middle School, I think it was, and there were quite a few people came. So we could still have something in person. Again, having multiple forums is going to really put a burden on staff. It is something that could be considered. We're already a little late in the year, though, and this is going to ramp up pretty quickly. So I think from communications, I think I can speak on their behalf and say they'd recommend a single opportunity in the spring, in person, and that it could be supported with these short videos if that's the direction you choose to take. They didn't have any recommendations regarding specific areas of content.
I open it up to the commission for discussion. I will say really quickly, and Commissioner Porter, I see your hand up, that this might be something for the commission to consider. That's where our, again, endorsement and recommendation of Project Stay could maybe also live on that page as well as an offering. So, Commissioner Porter.
Didn't we also discuss having this as, and this might be what you're saying with Stay, having this in conjunction with another event versus trying to make it its own standalone event to try and make that more successful?
I think we did. I think we had talked about trying to do it with if there was like a back to school situation or something like that. Yeah.
Do we have a list of any of those? I know Dr. Lamarca just said we're kind of into the school year a little bit now. Do we have a list of what's still upcoming, maybe before the end of 2024, if we're trying to do it in this year?
We could probably compile a list. We don't meet as a commission again until December, and
okay.
I think we would struggle getting that put together. There might be an event or two in the spring. One of the problems with attaching it to an event could be there are lots of events, but they tend to be at school sites for school communities. Now, that could be an approach as well, as to maybe, for example, we are going to be having a variety of middle school transition meetings, fifth graders as they transition to sixth grade. Sometimes schools do it as eighth graders transition into ninth grade, et cetera, kindergartners. We could try to attach either short videos or some presence at some of these transition meetings, which could be in addition to or substitute for the forum if that's the direction you want to take. But we can compose a list and get that to you to see if there are any big events in the spring that would help serve your purpose.
Just so I understand, you're saying rather than doing a forum, we could have a presence at these more transitional events?
I think we could attempt to do that, yes.
And would that look like maybe having different commissioners go to some of these different events?
I would need legal advice on that because I don't want you to have a walking quorum. But yeah, or we could provide information. You could be there. Yes.
So you would, the issue is potentially you guys would be presenting there and you would all be attending, right?
Well, my imagination of it is that if there's a bunch of different events, that I would assume that some of us could go and some of us couldn't, and that we would just be either providing information about our commission and then also providing information about how to access these materials, like the website and Project Stay.
I think it's okay for you guys to be moderators. I don't know about information related to the Safe and Healthy Schools Commission because then you're within the topics of your commission. But if you're just there as kind of, we've had commissioners there as moderators to kind of assist in the flow of the topics and the transitioning into the topics and just kind of helping and volunteering at the event. I think that's okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Other thoughts? Oh, Commissioner Porter.
Dr. Lamarca, you said for those three that we did, do you have data on which one was most attended, the morning, afternoon, or the evening session? Which one had the best attendance?
I do not have that with me. I do believe the breakfast forum was fairly well attended, and then when we had the evening at Trainer, there were quite a few people who attended that. And just to clarify for legal counsel, we have had commissioners that have assisted in the presentations of content at those forums. I know Misty Von Allen has done it on multiple occasions. I think Natalie has as well. And I think Sheriff Balaam did as well a couple of years back.
Yeah, I would agree with one, if we do it at all, to do the one time. It just, if we have some data on what is the best day or day part that people most attend, then we can make a better decision on that. But I think the larger question too is does the public, do students and parents and staff even, do they find it valuable? Is it hitting the notes we needed to hit? Is it worth time to put this together?
Dr. Lamarck, I see you making notes. I don't think we have the no data on it yet. Yeah, okay. Other thoughts?
Can I comment?
Yeah, please.
I think I really appreciate what Ms. Porter is after, and we're not going to have data that's going to tell us where we've been effective previously as a commission. I mean, I hate to say that, but we didn't collect data at the time. And it's a difficult one. We don't get a lot of parent participation at these events. Maybe that's a promotion issue, and if we have one and we really dig in, maybe we can get more engagement this year, and we could maybe try to measure our effectiveness at that. I would also say that you have always presented on critical content, and if it reaches a few families, that could be potentially life-saving. So I don't know that it's not a bad thing.
Commissioner Flores?
Thank you. It seems every year, and while we don't have the exact statistics on it, my recollection is that we continue to struggle with participation and engagement. I really like the concept of potentially pre-recording some presentations if possible, and having them available for a period of time that's promoted to parents, so that at their leisure they can review some of these things. Prior to Dr. Lamarca stating that I was gonna float that out there to see if that was a possibility in lieu of the in-person. I know the in-person, my recollection is it was attended, but it wasn't by masses, and that required a lot of volunteer and staff time. So for whatever that's worth, that would be my recommendation.
Thank you. Other thoughts? Commissioner Allen?
Misty Allen, for the record, I would agree with Commissioner Flores. I've been doing it a very long time, and there was one or two that were really decently attended, although be it with staff. Teachers were in talking about mental health and things, which is wonderful. But I think our intended audience is just not able to join us, so I would concur.
So I'm hearing some support for maybe being online, Commissioner Zucker?
I was just going to ask, isn't this a directive of the school board to the commission to have these? And so maybe it's something that we go back and consider addressing, or am I wrong?
Thank you. It's not a directive.
Oh, okay.
It's not a requirement. It is something that the commission has done, I think, since its inception. And the board members have often attended. So it is something they appreciate and they like, but it's not required.
Oh, Commissioner Porter?
I completely agree with Commissioner Flores in terms of if this is something where we can have these topics pre-recorded and we can put them somewhere where they are accessible and then be able to send that in mass communication via email or through newsletters to kids to school or something where parents are already looking. For example, the emails that we get from principals or however that is distributed, that is, I would anticipate that's going to have a much better traction than trying to an in-person forum, I think it's gonna be less of a lift for the staff. And it's going to be more evergreen, so that you're going to be able to, you know, if you can look at it that night, you can look at it on a Tuesday, whatever it ends up being. I think the larger question then is, can the district support something like that? Do we have a place where that can live online, that's easily accessible for people? I would imagine the answer is yes, but we need to answer that question. But I agree that it just seems to be a pretty big lift for a small return. And so if some of these topics are important, of course they are very important to certain people, we want to make that accessible for them anytime and not just into one forum that maybe they can or cannot make, or maybe they do or do not know. And if we're able to distribute that communication through things that parents are already getting, then we'll probably have a better likelihood of getting that information in front of parents versus another thing that they have to pay attention to or put on their calendars.
Thank you for the question, or the question within your statement. Yes, the district can support these activities both in hosting and disseminating, but also in the filming and giving you advice on the best approach to take. They should be short, 2 to 4 minutes maybe is long. These are also the sorts of things that are portable. So if you wanted, if we did make some requests to schools, we could maybe incorporate them into some of these transition meetings. That would be an easy thing to share with a lot of parents who do attend those. So I do think it's a real viable option, and it can live forever.
Commissioner Allen.
Thank you, Dr. Lamarca. I'm curious, it's been a long time since I filled out a climate survey. Do the parent surveys have some of these concerning topics from that survey? I mean, would we be able to select some important topics that they've already talked about?
It's a really good question, and I'd have to go back and look at it. There is definitely data and information in the surveys that would be relevant to some of the topics I believe you all would suggest, but I don't know that some of the questions are real direct. But certainly around social emotional competencies, around relationships between adults and students, safety concerns, bullying concerns. I don't believe our surveys include anything on substance use, but we have YRBS. So there's a number of tie-ins, and we could also use that data in the videos if it is helpful.
Thank you.
Other discussion? Is there any public comment for this item?
No public comment.
Well, I think we've got some info. Would anyone like to try to make a motion around this?
I'll make a motion. Sarah Porter, for the record, I move that we move the safety forum to a digital format where we do pre-recorded sessions that are hosted by the district, and that the communication is sent out via established forms, whether that is through email communication or school-specific communication, to let parents, staff, and students know that they are available when they are available and how to access them on demand.
Boom. Is there a second?
I'll second. This is Annie Zucker.
Great. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
And
Any opposed? Beautiful. The motion passes. Thank you, guys. That's exciting. All right. With that, we are moving on to our closing item, item 3.01. This is a chance for public comment.
We do have public comment from Christopher Mann.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Christopher. Welcome.
Thank you. Good afternoon to the committee. I'm a parent of a sophomore at McQueen, and he has often brought up school safety and school shootings as a worry of his. He's 16 years old, so it caused us as parents to go kind of dig around and see what safety measures might be happening at McQueen. I think if I read the minutes correctly, there's a perimeter fence that's been approved, and I just want to confirm. I think I read it starts in March, so I wanted to confirm that. And then the second comment was, are there any improvements to be done at McQueen to the office entrance, because the other comment from my son was, you know, Dad, the campus is wide open. There's no protections for anyone can walk in. And this is not a shy child, I will tell you. So I just wanted to bring those concerns. If there's any answers to those you can give today, that'd be great, or offline. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Is there any other public comment?
No other public comment.
All right. Thank you all. With that, the meeting is adjourned at 3:44.
Congrats, Chair.
Congrats. You're about to be like, Natalie.
No, you're great, yeah. I was, Paul and I were like, well, hopefully Natalie goes through the chair. So.